Perfect. Good afternoon, team. Welcome to the Standard Podcast, where we raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies or misconceptions that nobody else will. This isn't motivation. This is a movement. I'm Thomas Rowe, joined by my host, Erin Sarles, and co-founder. And today we're super excited. We're sitting down with Chase Coleman, founder of Social Playbook, a boutique content strategy firm helping brands turn social presence into a pipeline, and a creator who has built over 180,000 followers by treating social media like a craft, not a numbers game. Chase's journey is one of athletic foundation, corporate education, entrepreneurial courage. His path to founder wasn't a straight line. He played D1 football at Stetson University, which I'm super excited about getting into that. Spent years inside major corporations like Amazon and Starbucks, learning how the big brands actually operate, and then bet on himself to build something on his own. And I'm sure that kind of coincides with COVID. So it's nice to see a businessman and entrepreneur bounce back from such a dark period. What makes Chase's story so compelling is how he combined his athletic discipline with his corporate insight to create something entirely new. Through Social Playbook, he advises growth strategy brands on content strategy while building AI-powered tools for marketers. His approach to social media isn't about vanity metrics of viral moments. It's about treating content creation as a strategic craft that drives real business results. Chase has grown his personal content to over 180,000 followers, probably more since this was written, and not through shortcuts or hacks, by understanding the intersection of strategy, storytelling, and what he calls operator life. His newsletter explores these themes for entrepreneurs and marketers who want to build authentic platforms while driving real business growth. As a husband to Christen and a father of two young sons, Chase brings the perspective of someone building a business while building a family. Understanding that true success means creating something sustainable that serves both professional impact and personal values. Chase lives in Atlanta. You'll see the Deion Sanders jersey behind him. We'll get into that. Where his toughest clients and best content inspiration happen to be his two young sons. Proof that authentic storytelling often comes from most unexpected places. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life. Let's get into it. Chase, thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Thomas. That was the best introduction I've ever had in my life, whether it was running out to a football game or an arena, speaking on stages. I've never had someone flatter me that much. Wow. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, great. Let's just end the podcast, team. Reach out to Chase. He's got all your answers. Chase, you're the founder of Social Playbook, helping brands turn social presence into a pipeline. And you've built a following of 180,000 followers plus by treating social like a craft, not a numbers game. What does raising the standard mean to you in the content strategy and building authentic platforms mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in short, raising the standard to me means going above and beyond what everyone else around you is doing, right? When I think about it as an athlete, if you want to be a starter, if you want to be the best player on your team, you're more than likely going to have to show up earlier than your other teammates. Practice is not just going to be enough. Weightlifting is not just enough. Going to meetings is just not enough. And watching film, you have to go a little bit further than everyone else, whether that's dedicating more time, whether that's being more detailed in what you're doing. And I've taken that into account with everything that I've done since graduating college, to be honest with you. So when I think about it, I look at everyone else, what they're doing. That's the bare minimum of what I can do, because that means that I'm just getting the job done. Right. But if I want to excel and I want to really raise the standard and raise the bar, I need to be doing above and beyond that. And I was doing that even when I was working in my corporate jobs at Amazon, at Starbucks, at Nestle, et cetera. I was always the first one in. I was always one of the last people out, depending on the day. You know, sometimes you do have to take a little bit of rest. You can't grind through 100-hour work weeks and just think that you're going to excel without taking any type of break or miss out on a happy hour, because, you know, I do think that the personal side of working is very important as well. I'm sure we'll get into that too. But the biggest thing for me was like learning new skills outside of just my own job. That's how I got started into content creation. Was I was frankly bored during COVID. and everyone else that I was working with was just doing their job and then sitting down and watching Netflix or playing games and doing other things, then I wanted to learn a new craft, and I was fortunate enough to be able to learn it quickly and pick it up and really educate myself on it before I even started. And then that's what kind of got me going there. So long-winded way of saying, like, when it comes to raising the standard, it just becomes about doing more than what everyone else is doing. You don't want to fit in with what society and with what everyone within your business or within your team is doing. You want to stand out. And the only way to do that is by taking those extra steps to really make yourself better, which makes your team better, your family better. I mean, everyone around you better.
Right on, right on. So, I mean, as a former Division I athlete, there's a certain discipline and pedigree that goes into that. What do you think is the biggest lie you feel the culture of the marketing industry as well as the sports industry has sold entrepreneurs and athletes about social media, content creation, and what it really takes to build an authentic platform that drives businesses as well as your athletic performance?
Yeah, I'll start off with talking about the lie that I think lies within the athletic culture, which is if you outwork everyone, you will succeed. And that's true within a team environment. That's true within a sports environment. But the truth behind it is, like, a very small percentage of student athletes end up actually becoming a professional athlete, right?
Right.
So a lot of my coaches used to always say, especially before I got to college, was, what are you going to do when the ball goes flat? And when you get to college, it changes because your coaches don't ever want you to think about that because it's a business. But talking about just like what you're fed from, like, when you first start sports, probably around like 3 years old, all the way until you're 18, 19 years old, your coaches are basically telling you, if you remain disciplined and you work hard, like, you will achieve whatever goal it is that you want to achieve. And the truth behind it is, like, you have to have so many other skills that you are learning on a team to be able to succeed within business or as an entrepreneur. One of those is learning how to communicate with others. Another would be working with others, which you do every single day on a team, especially in team sports. And the third would be like learning how to sell. Like, what are those key attributes and things that you bring to the table? What's your true value, and how can you help somebody achieve their goals? And that's not talked about within athletic teams. It's not really talked about within sports in general. And it's something that really needs to be brought to the forefront, is the fact that you have all of these skills already built into you from just even being on a team. You don't have to be the best player on the team to know how to work with others, to know how to like share the ball and be a teammate. You know, there's plenty of times where I've had bad games, but my teammates won the game for us. And, you know, there are good moments here and there during those games. But you go into the locker room after to celebrate, the team is celebrating, and you're sitting in your locker sulking, and your teammate next to you is going, dude, it's okay. We won.
Right.
We got, the best part about it is that we get to go back to practice tomorrow and we get to get back after them.
Right.
You know, you always get another day, especially within sports and also within business. You asked what was the biggest lie that I think has been told about content creation and within marketing, the marketing industry just in general. I would say a lot of people, especially nowadays, think that you can just go viral and be successful in social media content overnight. And
Right.
the mass majority of content creators didn't go viral for months, if not years, after working on their craft.
Right.
The thing about content as well is, if you do go viral, if you're one of those people that you post your third video and you hit 10 million views and you go viral, and all of a sudden you have an influx of followers, which more than likely won't happen because you don't have that much content sitting on your page to gain those followers anyways. But say it happens, you are going to be, one, overwhelmed, and two, you're not going to know where to go from there.
Right.
Quick story on when I first went viral. I had been creating content for 6 years before I actually went viral. Now, I had a
6
podcast
years?
for 6 years.
Wow.
I had a podcast that never had over 100 subscribers. I did that for 5 years. Just loved podcasting. After that, I took a hiatus because I was just kind of tired and burnt out, and I was going through COVID, and I was trying to figure out what's my next like side hustle and adventure that I just want to do out of passion. And my roommate and I were I had 2 roommates at the time. We were sitting on the couch. One of my roommates used to just turn to the side and like scroll TikTok like all night. And I was like, dude, I don't really get it. I was trying to get off social media at the time because it was just becoming very overwhelming to me in 2020, just trying to figure out, again, more about myself than I was like really caring about like what else was going on around in the world. And my roommate really pushed me. He was like, dude, you have this podcast. You do a great job with it. I'm a huge fan. But at the same time, like, you should flip and do short form content on like TikTok and Instagram. Like, I promise you'll be successful there. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if that's really me. Like, I'm more of like a talker. I could do this whole podcasting thing, but creating short form content, like, I don't know, taking my stuff and going from like 45 to 60 minutes to like 30 seconds seems like it's just out of my realm. So as I was sitting there, like one night, both my roommates had went to bed already. I was just scrolling TikTok myself and really started studying what career and corporate content creators were doing at the time, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. Probably sat on it for about 2 weeks. And then I promised myself, if I do this, I have to go all in for at least a month. And that means I'm going to be posting multiple times a day. I'm going to do it like 7 days a week. And I'm going to like batch content out so I don't have to film every single day, but I'm just going to do this. Fortunately for me, on my second week, I went viral and I had 4 million views on a video. And I stayed up all night, doom scrolling as they call it, just like refreshing my page, reading the comments, the good, the bad, the very ugly, people like attacking me. And then waking up the next morning thinking, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on this podcast, but oh crap, what am I going to do about this now? And I remember going and grabbing one of my roommates and I was like, dude, this is crazy. 4 million views overnight. I now have like 5, 6, 7,000 followers. Every time I refresh, I have another couple hundred followers, but what do I do? And they're like, you keep going. You have more content that's already saved. You have a bunch of drafts there. You keep going.
Right.
And like I said, like it may have taken me 2 weeks on TikTok, but I had been working on my craft for 6 years on how I was going to storytell and bring all of that to life. And when I would meet other content creators as I continue to grow, my wife's a content creator as well. Every single one of us have had the same story of, well, I tried doing this for about a year, and then I tried doing this for about a year, and then I really started to hone in on like what my voice was going to be, who I was trying to go after, what niche I was going to kind of live in. And that's how you go viral. And a lot of my clients that I have today, the first thing that I tell them is, if you focus on going viral, you're going to focus on a moment, and then you're going to become irrelevant by the next week, and you're not going to be able to sustain that growth. And once I was able to get most of my clients don't really care about going viral because they just want to grow and they want to make money, which is great. So they think, okay, if I don't have to go viral and I can just like have sustainable growth over time, I'd prefer that. I've worked for someone before that only cared about going viral. Right. So what did we do? We went viral. We became irrelevant the next week. We had one great week of sales. The next week was terrible. And my whole point in talking to him was like, going viral is a very small moment in time. And frankly, it's not going to last very long. It lasts for 72 hours, maybe a week. And then the thing that happens after that is you drop off, and then you have to try to sustain that growth, and you have to try to get back to that same high that you were at. And it's very difficult to get there. Like it's very, very difficult. So I'm giving you long-winded answers, but these are just
awesome.
I read them all in my stories.
You know, one of the things that like I've always heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, this could be a little archaic, is like the key to going viral is one of these 3 principles. And if you can knock out all 3, then you got an upper deck home run. And that is educate, inform, and entertain. From what I understand, you got to hit one of those. If you hit all 3, can you build on that? Does that make sense, or is the game changed?
It makes sense. I would say the biggest, if you want to go viral tomorrow, post something controversial. And I'm being very honest. And the reason I say that is because conversation drives virality. So educate, entertain, and the third one that you said was inform. Those are all great ways to have sustainable growth of whether it's your own personal content, brand content. And there are ways to go like very viral with educational content specifically. I know that because I used to do interview questions and tips, and very general questions that would be asked in interviews. I would touch on those because those would drive the most amount of views and conversation with me. And then I would also get into more niche stuff. But I do agree with you. Those are a great way to drive views, drive engagement across people that you're trying to reach. But if
Right.
you're really trying to go viral, like make a statement that's controversial, choose a side, and post it, because you'll get people that agree with you and you'll get a lot of people that disagree with you. And if you have, I'm being honest, you have to have very thick skin in this game, because we've all heard the saying Twitter fingers. Everyone has Twitter fingers, especially those who don't have an audience, especially those who sit and scroll a lot, and especially those who have a point of view and an opinion. I
Right.
mean, and I have had some content that I didn't think was controversial, but I didn't think it was controversial because I was taking a stance on one side. And I've had people respond to me in ways that are that would be very shocking to
I bet.
hear. And when you're not ready for it, it hits you in a place where you're like, well, these people don't even know me.
Right.
Well, how could I? One guy, I'll never forget this DM. This guy told me that I was the reason why America was awful. And I was like, who is this guy?
Right.
So me being myself, I went and I found his page, obviously, because he DM'd me. I found that he had like a small furniture shop in Alabama. And I went and looked through his furniture shop, and I was like, this guy is no one to me. I'm never going to know who he is. I'm never going to see him ever in my life. I mean, the chances of me seeing him in my life are very, very, very slim.
Sure.
But he still ruined my night.
Yeah.
You know? And
yeah.
like to the point where I was like relatively on the verge of tears, is, you know, take him plus a bunch of other people telling me I'm what's wrong with society and I'm ruining America and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm just telling jokes.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything that's like that bad. But people get so worked up with what they see on the internet that if they get so worked up that they're actually DMing you or commenting like something negative, like it's the same thing with sports, man. Like you just learn to tune it out a little bit. But I feel like in sports, it's so much easier to tune it out because you're so focused on the game
Right.
or the practice or whatever is in front of you. Meanwhile, when you're on social media, you can't really focus in on that much stuff because you're like just scrolling and you're reading what all these people are saying about you. So what I would do is I would close my phone, go think about other ideas on stuff that I wanted to create, or go for a walk, or go swing the golf club a little bit. But yeah, long-winded way of saying, if you want to go viral, be controversial, but you have to be prepared for that moment, because you will be attacked by people, like in a lot of ways.
Let's expand on that a little bit more, because, you know, one of the things that Erin and I talk to our clients about and their families is we have what's called the 3 Ps. Try and stay away from politics and porn, and then always post with purpose. And I want to build on what you said about controversial, because that's easy to do. I mean, you and I can both put up something today controversial and it'll just go viral. But what about these athletes that are trying to build a brand, Chase, that, you know, they're also representing the university, right? Or their school.
Mm-hmm.
So if they say something, you know, if it's off color, I mean, they could be benched, they could lose their scholarship, they could be kicked off the team. They could have brands that are already working with them, drop them. Go into that more as far as a controversial strategy that works in their benefit, as opposed to backlashing. Because yes, there are so many trolls on there that just, I mean, you can't see me, I have a hat on, but like I'll say stuff and people will be like, dude, you're just bald. And I'm like, that's the best you got? You know, I mean, thank you for telling me something I don't even know. But by the way, my head is shaved. It's not bald, right? So I just kind of have fun with it. But what about those athletes that are trying to build a brand?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because controversy can be taken in a lot of different ways, right? And to your point, stay away from politics, porn. Man, why am I forgetting the third one again, Thomas? Remind me.
No, that's all right. I said, I mean, this is what we preach. Stay away from politics and porn, and always post with purpose, right?
Post with purpose, yeah.
I mean, because you and I mean, if you're a good-looking woman and you just show TNA, I mean, that's fine. I mean, you're going to get a lot of likes for that, but it's going to be eggplant emojis, fire, and heart eyes, right? Is that what you're going for? So, but what about, you know, take that premise, you know, if you could support what, you don't have to believe it, just support, like, stay away from politics and porn, and then post with purpose, especially when you're trying to build or protect your brand, and also representing a school or university or current people that you're working with.
Yeah, no, that's, and again, it's a great question. And I do agree with you. I mean, those are things that I personally stay away from. And posting with a purpose, it means something because it's how you grow an audience that is going to be interested in what you are talking about, right? Like when I
Right.
first started out creating content, I was doing corporate humor. I switched over to career advice because I was more aligned to career advice than talking crap about corporate America. And frankly, I
Sure.
wasn't even talking crap about it. It was more just like my boss thinks that I'm online 24/7, always have a green status light on my Microsoft Teams or Slack or whatever it is. But sometimes I take a midday shower. Sometimes I go for like a wellness walk or whatever. But when it comes to these athletes creating content and they're representing more than just themselves, the way that I would think about controversy is something like, for example, I'm 5'8". I played corner. If you look at all of the corners nowadays, and not all of them, because Indiana's corner who just got drafted, I forget his name, but he's 5'8" as well. But the majority of them are 6 foot or high or taller. And a controversial statement that I could potentially make would say corners who are 5'9" or shorter have better technique than corners who are taller.
Right.
Right. And that's not something that's going to ruin a team. That's not something that's going to be looked at in a negative light. That's something that's personal to me. That's something that I'm making a statement because I'm saying I am a better technical corner than all of these other 6'1" corners who are being drafted. And it's going to drive conversation because you're going to have a lot of people who are fans of, the school, fans of Richard Sherman, who's over 6, like people will have their point of view is kind of what I'm saying.
Sure.
I think the other thing too is like really focusing on what it is that you want to like be known for is a huge key here. If I think back to it during my playing days, there's no NIL, but if I were to go back if I was a college athlete today, I would say my biggest thing would be like working on like footwork, speed work, and how to be a well-rounded student athlete. I was very involved on campus. I was doing community service. I was also involved with Greek life, and showing that and showcasing how I manage my day from waking up at 4:45 a.m. and going and hitting somebody in the mouth at 5:15 to going to breakfast, to going to class, to going to meetings, going to weightlifting and more meetings, and then still having to have time to be social plus study and get enough sleep to be ready to hit somebody in the mouth again at 5:15 a.m. Like the days were jam packed, right? And I remember when I would talk to some of my classmates who weren't nearly as busy as us student athletes, they were always shocked at the amount of stuff that we had to do. And a lot of it happened while they were sleeping or while they were taking a nap or while they were in the library studying. So they weren't like, they didn't have eyes to see it because in their perspective, they were living in their own world. But now with social media, you get to show off what the day in the life looks like. And you get to show it from your point of view and how you manage it. And I think showing off your personality is what helps kind of take you, it helps give you a little bit more uniqueness compared to just being on the Florida State football team or just being on the Colorado basketball team. And it allows people to really connect with you. People follow you on social media because they want to be connected to you. They want to like you. I have groups of content creators who are friends, and I started following them because I liked their personality of what they were doing in content. And then when I went to New York to go meet up with them, or I went down to, before I moved to LA, or when I lived in LA to meet up with them, they were the same person online as they were in person, and like that was the best part about it. Now, some of my friends who were funny online were a little bit more reserved in person, but once you get to know them and you get through those deeper layers, they become a true friend. And that's what you want. Like, I think really showing up authentically as yourself while still having a little bit of a filter, right? Because like there are going to be things, especially as a college student, that you're going to say to your best friends that you don't want to say in front of a crowd of 50,000 people, right? You have to show up authentically as yourself and not really worry about the follower count. You just have to know that you're bringing in the right people, because if you continue to do it over time, your followers are going to grow. And because you're going to find more and more people who are interested in you as a person, and you're not going to feel like a freaking fraud. And there's so many people out there that have huge followings. I have friends who have millions of followers, but they feel like a fraud because they post content like this. They're actually like this in person, And there's a huge disconnect between who they are as a person versus what they post online. And at first it was cool because they were growing, but then all of a sudden they become used to having millions of followers and they realize I'm kind of fraudulent in this and I don't really like that, So
Right.
posting with a purpose is a huge thing, especially when it comes to especially nowadays. I mean, everyone's on social media. So just be yourself. You'll sleep better that way.
I love it. I love it. On that one, let's turn it over to Erin, segment 2, identity and entrepreneurship. Erin, take it away.
Hey, Chase.
Hi, Erin.
How are you? I'm just over here patiently waiting my turn. We have so much we've already connected on, but I'd like for you to start just with me and our audience. Just who is Chase? Beyond all the accolades Thomas has shared, how we know you, the corporate jobs, all that stuff. Who is Chase?
I am a fun, hardworking. I have an endless motor, and I just love to have fun. If I had to say 2 words, it's fun, genuine. You get what you get at the end of the day. I cuss a good amount. I'm not going to cuss on this podcast because we didn't ever talk about that at the beginning, and I'm going to be respectful for that. But I'm authentically me, when it comes down to working with my clients, when I was coaching middle school football, when I am in the gym working out, which doesn't really happen all that much right now because I have two young kids, or when I'm just playing golf, I am the same person through and through. I'm very comfortable in who I am. I like to tell jokes. I don't think anything is that serious. I've had my accolades, but I also have had many downs in my life. I've, lost one of my best friends when I was in college. He passed away from a drowning accident. I've been turned away from more jobs than I could count. My business right now is what some would consider some would consider it really successful. I consider it relatively successful, but a lot of people wouldn't know that over the last year before this new year hit, I was struggling and trying to figure out if this was even right for me. I was going door to door to dental offices and medical spas and trying to sell a social media workshop to them, thinking that I was going to be that person for them and that I had this grand idea, and I had 0 yeses and hundreds of no's, but it's what kept me going. My family means the world to me, and whenever you talk to me, you will always get the truth. You'll always get the real from me, and you will also probably get a couple good laughs out of it. Quick story for you, Erin. Let me tell you just a little to explain myself. Literally last night, salesman comes by my house, and we live in a neighborhood where there's no soliciting, but sometimes it is what it is. Both my kids are asleep. He knocks on the door, rings the doorbell, and I'm heated from the jump. So I go out there. I'm telling him what are you doing, dude? It's 8:30. You're in a neighborhood. There's a bunch of kids around here. And this guy immediately kind of takes himself down. He's like, hey, I'm sorry, I could leave. I didn't mean to wake you up or wake your kids up or whatever. And I'm like, well, what are you doing here? He was selling pest services, right? So I said, fine, give me your pitch. I didn't mean to come in so hot. I apologize for that. I can control my reactions to everything. Give me your pitch. So then he just starts telling me the pitch, blah, blah. And then he goes, I have a real question for you. You have a, relatively nice house. I'm 20 years old. What advice do you have for me? And then it just opened up the door for conversation. So I ended up standing outside for 20 minutes, bought the dang pest service, and they're coming by today. But my whole point in saying that is that you're always going to get 100% me, and I will probably be nicer than not, but I'm not going to lie to anyone because there's no reason to really lie about anything. So I'm just authentically me. I like to make people laugh too.
Well, that's a great story and way to buy the what would I have done? It's oh my gosh. But he disarmed you, and you're man, this kid's really working it. He's trying
well,
to
he was really, and I saw his shoulders drop so quick, and I was like, oh, let me give this kid a break. And I asked him what his name was, and he was like, well, why are you going to call the cops? Because 2 people have already called the cops, and I'm just not trying to. And I was like, not going to call the cops on you, dude. I don't care that much. Anyways, so
Man, that kid's like, please give me some advice and give me a break. This is hard enough as it is. The door-to-door salesman. Go, go, guys. Keep it up.
Oh yeah, I
Good
felt
way to
bad
be
for him.
persistent. Oh man. So you talk a lot about, and I think you write in your newsletter about the intersection of strategy, storytelling, and the operator life, which I think is so perfect because you and I share Starbucks as a common growth pattern in this world. What does legacy beyond building a successful business means to you now that you're a father, you have your sons, but you also are building for your family and you've worked at some iconic brands? Like if I think of Starbucks and what Howard Schultz built, he has a legacy.
Yeah, that's such a good question. And honestly, I read this question that you had prior to this show, and I've been thinking about it a lot because when I was an athlete, legacy to me meant having my name cemented and like living beyond my lifetime. And I've had that. I'm in my city's Hall of Fame. I'm in my high school Hall of Fame. Like I have achieved that goal. And frankly, it does not mean a damn thing to me anymore because I'm not the same person that I was when I was an athlete. Legacy to me now means passing on my life learnings to my children, to student athletes that I coach, to people that I talk to, and helping them become better in whatever it is that they may be struggling with. And even beyond that, like they don't even have to be struggling in anything, but it's like helping them just become a better human in person and value to society. When I think about the day and age of what we live in, everything is documented, but thinking all the way back to like, hundreds and thousands of years ago, the only way that things were ever passed on was through stories. And I still think about like stories that my dad has told me or things or experiences that I've had with my father or my mother or my coaches, so many people that have impacted me to this day. And I just hope that one day my kids, my student athletes that will soon become, whether they're pro athletes or whether they're, just I call us normal people in society, I guess, hardworking people. I hope and I pray that one day they'll think about something that I've taught them and how it's made them better, whether it's better as a person, better as an athlete, or just better as a, worker, employee. That's really what it comes down to. It's a very simple answer, but that's just the way that I think about it. Like I want people to continue to talk about what they've learned from me, and they don't even have to mention my name. Like it's really not even about my name anymore. It's more about just like helping and being selfless in the things that I'm doing.
I love that. I think I think we should all strive for that in this life is the hope. And to your point, it's not even about the name recognition. It's the impact that we left with. And it like is when I think about it, it's like I think we come across so many people and it's like, did I have a positive moment with that person and not flip them off in traffic or whatever?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've done the latter a couple times, not recently, but I constantly reflect. We all have our personal time, whether you're in the shower, in the bathroom, wherever it is. And I'm constantly thinking about like all of my past managers who have impacted me, my past coaches who have impacted me, my wife who's impacted me in many different ways, my parents, my friends, and constantly thinking about like, I want to give people their flowers, their roses before time, is too short. But I also hope that they know like that they've impacted me in a lot of different ways. And I hope to be that for someone else too. It's hard to like really encompass and think about that. But like when I do a lot of reflecting, and I think it's really powerful work just to think about how grateful you can be in life and how to continue to strive for something like this,
I love that. Yeah. And my last question before I turn it back over to Thomas is, what's one truth you wish, whether it's content creators, entrepreneurs, athletes, knew about building authentic platforms, content that most people aren't sharing with them today?
Yeah. We live in the day of AI. Everything is super polished. Like, I mean, I was in high school when Instagram first came out, And like there was all these filters, and then all of a sudden these new apps were coming out with these filters, and you can take a pimple off of your face or make yourself look skinnier or make yourself look more buff, or you can really like generate yourself in different ways. And now with AI, you can literally have a headshot that like looks similar to you, but it's not really you, right? And when you think about it like that, it's not authentic. And one thing that I talk to often with my clients is there's so much AI content that's coming through on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all of these, Snapchat, every social media platform is inundated with it. But what resonates with people is authentic storytelling, is being yourself, like saying things like stuttering a little bit. It's more real. And people nowadays spend so much time on their phones that they're often looking for a real authentic connection versus this polished version of you. And it's okay to mess up. You have to be yourself to be able to grow a true audience and also feel good about it and sleep at night. But AI has made things so polished nowadays that people are actually kind of going what some would consider backwards and going more for that raw, authentic truth. And the only way to do that is by showing up and being yourself. The last thing I'll say on this is the senior vice president of content at TikTok recently just said that the best performing content on TikTok are those who can tell a story. If you can literally hop on your phone, act as if you're not in front of your phone, recording, and tell someone a story just like you were telling your best friend or someone that you're in a car on a car ride with, and post it, more than likely you're going to go viral. People are going to listen to it. People are going to be drawn into it because it's just like thousands of years ago when people sat around a campfire listening to stories. It's the theme or the action hasn't changed. People just want to hear stories and they want to be able to relate to it. And they need to hear your struggles just as much as they need to celebrate your accomplishments. And that's one thing that I share in my newsletter all the time is, I've grown 180,000 followers. I have 3,000 subscribers with a 50% open rate on my newsletter. Cool. But how did I do all that? I had to go through the crap to be able to get to this. Like, it wasn't all glamorous. If it was all glamorous, it'd be boring. It'd be really boring. The journey is really the best part about it, not the destination.
That's so well said. Yeah. We think what you see out in the social media world is like this instant hit, and it's like, oh, it took them nothing, just one try. And it's like, you don't know all the things that went on in order to do that. And so with that, I'm going to toss it back over to Thomas.
Awesome. Chase, I want to build on what you were talking about. I used to live out in Los Angeles, and I had my own gym, and I was a trainer. I wouldn't say a celebrity trainer, but I had some clients that were in the entertainment industry. And I remember I said to one of my clients, I was like, dude, you've nailed it. How did you get where you are? How did you get your big break? And he goes, dude, I'm still waiting for my break. I've been at it for 10 years. So to your point, you've been doing all of this for 6+ years. And so when someone sees, oh, wow, Chase is just killing it. There were so many late nights and just so many just endless things that didn't go anywhere. You were talking about your podcast where you had like 100 subscribers for 5 years. The key is that we have to remind our clients and your clients is you got to embrace the grind. You got to embrace the suck, right? One of the things that you and I talked about, the fact that we're both athletes and the fact that we both didn't have the transfer portal NIL, we had to stay in the pocket. And, pun intended, we had to take the beating. We have to remind these kids, if you're getting recruited, more than likely there's 2 or 3 guys ahead of you that were recruited previously. You're going to have to earn your stripes. You're going to have to stay in there and take a beating. This next segment 4, I love it. It's advice across stages. And it's kind of, if you knew then what you know now. So if you could sit down with yourself as a D1 football player at Stetson before you understood how corporate experience would inform or mold your entrepreneurship, what would you tell that version of Chase about building towards something of your own?
Oh, man. I would tell that version of Chase the same thing that I would tell 23-year-old Chase, which is you have to figure out what you do like and what you don't like. And it's actually even more important to figure out what you don't like. Because if you figure out what you don't like, you stop wasting time on that thing. For example, when I was 23, I thought, moving to Seattle was going to be fantastic. It was. Erin, I know you've worked at Starbucks and been to Seattle many times too, and it's great, but it's an outdoorsy area and people like to hike up there. And I thought hiking would be cool. Maybe, I don't know. 3 hikes in and I realized, wow, I don't like hiking, and I never went on a hike again. I mean, I went on a few hikes only because my younger brother would come to visit and he liked hiking. So it was like something I did for him, but I stopped wasting time hiking. People would ask me to go and I'd be like, no, it's okay. I'm going to do something different that I actually enjoy. And I never figured that out when I was in college, in high school, middle school, even, because my whole life revolved around athletics, and a lot of athletes' lives revolve around that. I went to school because I had to. I went to practice because I loved it. I went to workouts because I loved it. I was always getting ready to prepare for the game. And it was massively important to me at the time. But what I thought of myself at that time was, I'm an athlete and I'm only ever going to be an athlete. But the truth behind that is that there's like, I think LeBron James said it, like, I'm more than an athlete. Like, you are so much more than just an athlete. And you have to figure out what you do and don't like to be able to thrive as an adult. I mean, even when you get to college and when you get beyond college, I mean, I have so many teammates from high school that went to college and completely lost themselves because they lost their identity, and their identity was completely rooted in who they were as an athlete. And then when they got to college and they were no longer an athlete, they were like, I don't know what I am. And they would latch onto things. They would latch onto a fraternity. They would latch onto drinking. They would latch onto all these things that never brought, well, not to say that fraternities don't bring good to people's lives, because they can. But when you latch onto things like drinking and partying 24/7, you become that. And then you're basically staring your future in the eyes, which is probably that bartender who's still in the college town, that they were the same person that you were 5-6 years before. So I would just say like that. And then also, I mean, as much as it was difficult for me as an athlete, like, you got to take your academics seriously. And it's not even about learning accounting or math or English or history. It's more about learning in general. I never would have became a content creator if I didn't study the craft of creating content, and studying it through trial and error, podcasting for 6 years, taking a little bit of a break and reflecting, and then going into short form content and studying what other short form creators were doing before actually coming out with content myself. Try and being okay with failure too. I mean, nowadays there's so much AI. Like I continue to say, I build dashboards and different tools for marketers to be able to use, and I offer them to them for a price. Some of them are free, and other ones are, cost them money. But I had to teach myself how to do all of that. No one sat me down and said, hey, Chase, this is how you use Claude or how you use ChatGPT to do X, Y, and Z. No, I went on YouTube. I learned in the late wee hours of the night and went through trial and error. I had spent many days frustrated because I couldn't figure it out. And then once I figured it out, I was like, oh man, I could make some money off of this.
Right.
So I would say like the academics thing, it's not necessarily about like classwork. Like, yes, you have to pass your classes to be able to be eligible to play, but enjoy learning and doing the same way that you enjoy challenging yourself on the field, on the court, swimming in the pool, like, wherever your field of athletics is, like, you have to embrace other aspects of life the same way. It just may not be challenging your body the same way, but it's definitely challenging your mind.
Right on. What about for business owners and marketers who want to turn social presence into an actual pipeline? What advice about balancing authenticity with strategic business results?
I'm going to continue saying, especially nowadays, and I hate that I'm saying that, but it's just the truth. The best billboard that you have, the best TV commercial that you have is now the founders of these companies. And authentic storytelling is the only way forward here. Now, you don't have to tell every aspect of your story, right? There's plenty of businesses out there where the number one goal is financial gain. That's fine. We live in a capitalistic society. This is, America. You get to have whatever reason it is that you want for why you came up with your business, but there has to be a story rooted within there. And I say that in terms of like, what's the problem that you're solving? Who are the consumers that you're going after? And why do you care about this? Now, if you only care because you see it as an open place in the market and it's the best place for you to make as much money as possible, from what I've seen in my experience, 99% of those businesses fail anyway. So like, it's never going to get anywhere. But if you are really trying to make content a priority for you, you have to be comfortable in front of the camera. And actually, I wouldn't even say you have to be comfortable in front of the camera. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And whether that's putting yourself in front of the camera, whether that's putting a UGC creator in front of the camera, or influencers, or someone that you hired off the side of the street to create content for you, you have to be able to tell a story and really frame it as like, what's the problem? My product or my service is the solution. For me, it's, what's your problem? Your problem is your business is growing and it's scaling, but you're not doing it profitably. You're not doing it efficiently. And the reason that you're not doing that is because you're not creating authentic storytelling based videos that tell a story and make people feel pulled in and relate. And your solution is you hire me and I come in and I fix that for you. It's content's not easy. It's a game, and you have to constantly put new content out there to stay relevant. The news cycle changes, I think, weekly. So like, if something big happens in the news one week, it won't be big in the news the next week. And that's because they're constantly competing to stay relevant in the news media coverage industry. Same thing on social media, but the only difference is that those cycles change faster. One day it could be about, I'm just going to make up some stuff because I know we're kind of short on time. One day it could be about short 5'8" corners. The next day it could be about corners who don't run a 4.5 40. And the following day it could be about, no one cares about DBs. We're actually on to quarterbacks and how they're all over 6'5". Like, it changes so quickly, and you have to continually keep up. And the only way to keep up is by continuing to create and push content out there. And you're also never going to know how people respond until you actually put it out there. So you can't expect for all of it to hit and be a winner at the end of the day, because you're in a volume game when it comes to content. And the more volume you do, the better you get at it. But if you don't start off with volume, you're going to drown and get left in the dust, unfortunately for you.
Right on. Chase, don't worry about time. We're good on time, unless you have someplace to be.
No, I don't have anywhere to be. We're good.
Because I love the insight you have here is remarkable. I just want to keep it going. And on that one, I'm going to turn it over to Erin. This is a quick block, segment 5, rapid fire round. Erin, it's all yours. Take it away.
Oh, I'm scared for this round.
This one's the scariest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a sentence and you're going to finish it for me. So here we go. Discipline equals
accountability.
Leadership equals.
I want to say accountability again. Leadership equals bringing others along with you.
The authenticity equals
being genuine.
Legacy equals
what you leave behind.
What's one thing that you would never compromise on?
I mean, my morals and values.
I love it. Okay. Don't compromise on those guys. So follow Chase's lead here. And if you could put a billboard up for the next generation of athletes, entrepreneurs, business owners, what would your message to them be?
You are enough. Stop trying to be like others. LeBron James never tried to be like Michael Jordan. I could go with so many different athlete comparisons. I mean, you're unique and you're at a point in your life as an athlete or as an entrepreneur that is unique to yourself. Your background is unique. Your goals are unique. You know, you have to be yourself and stay true to yourself and know that you're enough. It's tough, especially when you're young, and especially with these kids nowadays having social media and basically supercomputers in their hands. Like, it's easy to compare yourself to other people, but 98% of what you see on social media is people's highlight reels. It's not their real life. So if you're just chasing a highlight reel and you're not actually chasing like your goal and loving the journey, then you're never going to get there and you're always going to be ultimately disappointed. And that's a sad way to live life.
Couldn't have said it better. I love that. Thomas, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Awesome, Chase. This has been incredible. As we get into our closing round here, what I always like to do is I like to open up the floor to the guest and kind of just a little free fall. Free flow. Is there something we didn't touch on today that you feel entrepreneurs or marketers or anyone building authentic platforms that they need to hear about content strategy and operation for life?
Yeah, I mean, my message for athletes would be you're way more than just being an athlete. Like, your identity, no one talks about the identity crisis that you go through whenever the ball goes flat for you, whether it's post college, whether it's post high school, whether it's post professional life. And you need to mourn that time in your life. It's okay to say, man, I was a hell of an athlete, but that I'm no longer that. You know, when I go out and play pickup basketball, I definitely can't jump or shoot nearly as well as I used to be able to. And that's okay, though. I don't need to be the same guy that I was when I was 16, 18, 21 years old. For entrepreneurs, for marketers, I would say you have to fail in order to really like hit like what I call a hockey stick of explosive growth. We could talk about my podcast that I never got over 100 subscribers on. We could talk about the multiple videos that I posted on Instagram and TikTok still to this day that don't get over 1,000 views. We could talk about a variety of different things that like some people would consider failures, but I actually consider those like big learnings of my life and also just big parts of the journey. You can't expect for yourself to go viral. You can't expect for your business to go viral. You can't expect for your business to just have this explosive growth. You have to kind of go through the crap or the grind. You know, Thomas, I think you said this earlier, the Marines say it, like, embrace the suck.
Right.
Because if you don't embrace that and you just look at it as like, oh, another day I failed. Oh, another day I failed. Oh, another day I failed. You're not learning from that and you're never going to get better. You're just going to continue having a lot of those, oh, another day I failed. If you take every experience as an opportunity to learn and get better, you're setting yourself up for future growth. You're setting your business up for future growth, and you're setting your marketing strategy, your marketing team, like your entire like business is basically built on marketing up for success. You know, I told this kid last night who came selling door-to-door pest control. He told me he hadn't gotten one sale in the last week. And I said, well, you need to look at it as if like you're refining your pitch every time. Like,
Totally.
Okay, you tried it this way on Sunday. It didn't work. Well, try it a different way on Monday. Maybe it won't work, but maybe you'll have a longer conversation. Maybe on Tuesday, you tried a different way, but you take some things that you learned from Monday and take some things that you learned from Sunday. And now you're having an even longer conversation. And you realize that the longer you have someone sitting here on their porch, the more likely it is that they're going to actually buy your pest service, right? So you have to really look at it all as like a learning opportunity, because the moment that you start looking at it in a negative light is the moment that you're going to fail. Like, you don't fail until you stop. And I really, truly believe that if stopping doesn't mean just like physically stopping, it also means like taking something, not getting the outcome that you wanted and going, well, didn't get it today, I guess I'll try again tomorrow. Like, that's not how you grow. And that's not how you grow a freaking business. You know, I've grown. One client that I have was doing $100,000 in sales back in August. So 7 months ago, and now they're doing about $1 million a month. And it's because they've taken every learning and they're like, all right, we're going to build on it and build on it and build on it. And they just keep stacking wins. And sometimes those wins are small. Sometimes those wins are just opportunities to get better. I have another client that went from 10 million last year. They're going to do 125 million this year. And it's all the same principle of there's no failures, it's learnings, and we're just going to keep going. So that's kind of how I would like to look at it.
I love it. I love it. You went from the rapid fire to the hot seat. Art imitates life. What are the top 3 sports movies according to Chase?
Oh man, my top one has to be Remember the Titans.
Sure.
I'm also a huge Denzel Washington fan. Anything he puts out pre-2025 was amazing. Anything he puts out now, I'm like, you're just trying to get your money, so go get it. Remember the Titans. Man, I love Hoosiers. Like, I'm a big basketball guy. Hoosiers was great.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say 2 movies as my third, just because one of them is a childhood like staple. Dang, I'm gonna say 3 movies as my third, just because it's a childhood staple.
Go for it.
Space Jam, because I love Looney Tunes. I'm also gonna say Mighty Ducks, because like, what a freaking story. But the third one that comes along with that is going to be Miracle. I'm not big on hockey. I love playoff hockey, but like I didn't grow up watching hockey or playing hockey. But when you look at what the Americans overcame to beat the USSR and how that whole story kind of came to life, it's unreal. I mean, I think the best thing about sports movies is that there's a very clear challenge at the beginning, and then they kind of overcome that, whether they end up like getting all the way through it and winning or not. So yeah, those would be my 3. But Remember the Titans. I can watch that movie any day.
That's awesome, because you and I are very much aligned. My number one is Miracle. Just exactly what you said. I never played hockey. I mean, Erin and I were talking about this morning. I probably have, spent 4 times on the ice skating, around Christmas time. But Miracle, the message there, just take a bunch of misfits and put them together and they could win a championship. Number 2 for me was the original Rocky. Number 3 was Hoosiers. So yeah, you're very much aligned. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, sorry, Thomas, go ahead.
I was going to say there's so many honorable mentions, but you're right. Mighty Ducks and so forth. But go ahead.
No, Rocky, I when I was younger, I binge watched like Rocky 1 through, how many are there? 9, if not more. I mean, I remember this was back when TV, you just, whatever came on, you had to watch. And one day I was sick and I just watched all of them, and I was like, I love Rocky. And then I found out he's not a real person, and I still loved him.
That's awesome. Chase, this has been incredible. What we want to do is we want to give you an opportunity to share where people can get a hold of you, whether it's a website, your social media handles, or an email. Where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, you could always find me on Instagram and TikTok. My handle is @the.chasecoleman. My website is socialplaybook.team. You could sign up and subscribe to my newsletter there as well if you are interested. I don't force anyone to follow me or subscribe to my newsletter. It's just not who I am, but you can always reach me through those 2 channels. My email is also on my website, or it's just chase@socialplaybook.team. I mean, those are the places, and I'm an open book. So if anyone ever just wants to connect, have a conversation, get some advice, I'm more than happy to always have a conversation.
That's awesome, Chase. You rock. Thank you so much for showing us what it looks like to combine athletic discipline, corporate insight, and entrepreneurial courage to build something authentic and impactful. And team, if this conversation hits you, do 2 things for us. 1, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. An entrepreneur building authentic platforms, a marketer trying to turn social presence into real business results, anyone navigating the intersection of strategy, storytelling, and operation in life. And 2, connect with Chase on LinkedIn and follow Social Playbook and subscribe to his newsletter. If you're in a growth strategy brand or entrepreneur looking for content strategy that drives a pipeline, not just vanity metrics, Chase's approach could be exactly what you need. And if you're an athlete, parent, or coach ready to raise the standard, reach out to me or Erin at blueprintbluechip.com. And if this episode has resonated with you, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps us reach more athletes, parents, and leaders who needs to hear this message. This is the Standard Podcast, and this movement only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent fades, but truth endures. Let's raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and become the standard. Erin, Chase, thank you so much, team. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Awesome. Chase, that